Hello and welcome to Movie Buffs, a show about friendship, consent, and being careful what you wish for. I'm your host, Shani B.
And I'm your other host, Cisco from Misfit Minded.
Each episode, we check the gate and break down movies from all genres, from major franchises to docs to indie darlings. And we also sneak into some new releases, like today. We are sneaking in and talking about the 2025 film Obsession, because everyone's obsessed with it, including
26.
us.
26.
Oh, 26, yeah, I guess. Was it 25 at like a festival or some shit? Is that why it says that on IMDb? IMDb always trips me out and goes backwards.
It probably, did debut at festivals or whatever, but...
God, thanks a lot, IMDb. You really make me sound like
yeah,
an
it
idiot.
says, I'm looking at the release date right now for the wide, May 15th, 2026, so...
Okay, yeah, that's when it went to theaters and just exploded. So
yes,
obviously
everywhere.
we have to talk about it.
Exactly. This was like an emergency, alarms going
call
off.
to arms for us to be able to talk about, a movie that's like saving movies, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if you want to talk about that first. I think that would be, I told you I wanted to talk about, this moment we're in right now.
Yes.
I think as movie fans, we are eating good right now. I haven't exactly, been to the movies and, seen everything, but, the excitement around movie going and, the discussions people are having, I'm like, this is what, in the heyday, the prime days of being a movie fan, this is what it felt like. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then what we always complain about of, not having a healthy mix of things. You got your big epic war film in the Odyssey. You got these indie horror films taking over with Backrooms and Obsession. You got Spider-Man Brand New Day. So you got your superhero film in there.
You got your big studio films too. Mm-hmm.
Toy Story 5 made a shit ton of money. It's just this is what, in a good year, when you look at those box office lists, sometimes we're just holy shit, man, that month was crazy or whatever. I feel like this is one of those times,
it's
that's
true.
the
Yeah,
summer.
we're finally getting back to close to pre-pandemic figure numbers,
Yeah, and I was just gonna ask you if you feel that same wave, because for me, it has been, like you said, the first time since pre-pandemic where I'm okay, I see the tide finally turning a little bit, to where it almost seemed like they wanted us to be well, this is the streaming level is going to be where we're at now on. And gave studios a resounding no, it's not. This is not what we want. We want to go out, we want to have experiences and talk with people about it, because when you get a movie that has a rich text like Obsession, it has legs. I feel like that's why people are going 2-3 times, taking their friends to see it. And we're a little bit late on it, but they added it to Peacock a week or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's got a newfound energy now, to where, like you said, all my feeds, I have 6 pages on all the social platforms, and every single one of them is Indy Navarrete and Curry Barker and Obsession. Right. and part of that's my fault too, but it's just really amazing that this film has kind of cut through even new, more than the Odyssey, I would say. I mean, it's nuts.
Well, I feel like it's sort of that thing of to your point, it used to be that the movies had something for everyone every week. So they had the small movie and the large movie, and that would give you that kind of variety of my feed, I would say, is pretty equal. Because I'm of course a Nolan fan, so they're feeding me him constantly, but the other half of it is Obsession, and it's sort of that's exactly what I want. I want that kind of diversity in my algorithm, because otherwise it's just poisoning me with nonsense. So at the very least, I'm kind of grateful that at least the algorithm has some quality content to shovel my way. But that is exactly it. Is it it's kind of insane how it feels like it's everywhere. And at least in the case of these two movies, and especially Obsession, it truly is everywhere. Every age group is into it. Kids I used to nanny are hitting me up because they know I love horror movies and being like, what did you think of Obsession? I'm 13 now, so I can watch it. And I'm like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but like even, young kids are like getting into this because I feel like horror is the entryway for so many young people, even though it's like, softly inappropriate depending on the content. It's still like a lot of people's entryway into loving cinema. And it's like you go from being like, dissecting a horror movie, like a small movie like Obsession, to being able to accommodate a massive movie like The Odyssey. And I feel like that's why I love that they're actually happening next to each other, because they are the spectrum of film that it's like, I want all new people who are going to get into cinema to love all of that.
Well, I think like it's not that we're not like anti big budget blockbuster films.
Of course
It's
not. We're
just
your
like for
buffs.
yeah, it's just for a while there, it seems like that's all the only thing they wanted to push in theaters.
Hmm.
And it's like, yes, I like the avatars, well enough, and the superhero movies and stuff like that, but like I think the most eye-opening like stat to me, like we'll get into the budget and all that stuff, but like the fact that a movie that's made for less than $1 million, like Obsession,
Hmm.
beating out a Star Wars movie in its second week. It's like that to me was like, man, I don't think I've ever seen a Star Wars movie fall off like that in my life. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Right.
it's crazy, but like again, that was a weird one too, where they're taking a TV show and trying to be like something you get at home, you can get on Disney Plus,
Hmm.
and they didn't come up with a good enough reason to be like, you need to go to the theater to see
Yeah.
like what
Yeah.
none of the advertising told me like why I have to go to the theater and see this. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like,
versus it just being another property I can watch at home. And I do feel like that's like what these past couple of years have also sort of been, is them trying to figure out, is there a way to go from TV to film, to take people from the streaming services to the theater, or is it always going to go the other way? And I think the reality is like, it's almost always going to go the other way. Like it has to go to the theater first. It becomes a big spectacle. And then the people who like, were a part of the conversation but couldn't get to the theater, people with like small children, for example, when it finally hits streaming, then I'm going to watch it and engage. But it's like, I wouldn't have watched it if it was just exploding on streaming. I most likely would have been like, oh, that movie on Peacock people are talking about,
yeah,
maybe I'll check it out. But I definitely wouldn't have been like, I was on my phone constantly being like, when are they streaming it? Like, at what point
yeah.
is it going to a streamer? Because I couldn't get to the theater. So I needed it to be on a streamer. But there's no way I would have done that if it was coming straight to streaming.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I have my issues with theaters here. I was actually laughing at one of the, Red Letter Media, who's
Hmm.
also based in Milwaukee. They have a big channel, and I
Okay.
eagerly pulled up their review after I watched Obsession, and one of the guys was like, said he walked out because the audience was so annoying at his theater, and I was going, you know what? I think maybe I'm glad that I saw this at home. To be honest, I hate to admit that, but like this is such an intense movie, and I feel like one comparison, which I was gonna bring up anyway later on, but like I remember seeing Hereditary in
Oh,
the theater, and
epic.
there was some annoying kids like behind me, right?
So
And
unlucky.
that's the rare movie though where it got so once it got in the pocket of like, this is how fucked up this movie's gonna be, those kids shut right up, and I was
That's
like,
awesome. That's
wow. I
awesome.
was like, the power of cinema, to be
Yes.
able to and so I'm hoping that people had like pleasant movie going experiences, but just from a financial standpoint, like the old model just made sense. It's why like movie going has lasted for as long as it has. Like it's more, it makes more sense to gamble on these lower budget movies and maybe hit the jackpot once in a
Yeah.
while than
Yeah.
putting all of your cards in $500 million movies and praying that everyone wants to go see it. It's just like the odds are against you at that point. You know what I'm saying? Like,
And I think they're starting to get clever about understanding how audiences want a theater going experience, but that there is diversity in what they want out of that experience,
yeah,
which I am appreciative of, because it's like, I don't want to go to the same movie as like the 13-year-olds are going to.
no,
I don't want to be in their
yeah.
theater with them.
I
I'm
keep
like,
the
when are the
chicken
old people
jockey away
going?
from me, please. I don't.
Exactly.
Like,
I'm like, put the text on screen, like let these fools come in and like do it their way if they all like it. I don't care. Like I
Yeah.
want them to have their experience, but I feel like I'm appreciative of the fact that like I think theaters recognize that that's actually part of why some people didn't go to the theater is that
Well,
like when
the
you have to
behavior,
share
it's
yeah, it ruins it. It doesn't
nuts.
allow you to get the cinema piece, you
We
know?
talked about the social media, dude. Like, I feel like if I didn't watch this as soon as it went on streaming, I was getting screenshots, I was getting videos of
Yeah,
people in the
spoilers.
theater posting entire scenes like in the
Yep.
theater. I'm like,
Yep.
what are we doing? Like, this is
Exactly.
crazy. So like, but that's what you said. Like, that's the type of like what they've been conditioned to do. I don't know,
Yeah,
in their living
their
rooms.
experience of it, right?
And there's no like security. Like, I remember growing up, like I was terrified because those ushers
They
used
used
to
to
walk
kick us out like
up and down the
crazy.
theaters and
Yes.
flash lights at us like cops. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, it'd be like, get out, get out, get out.
and so I'm
You're
not
leaving.
like, saying it's the theater's fault or anything like that. Like, obviously this movie's doing well, but it's one of those things where it's like, I know at the point I am in my life, like what I can and can't handle, and I just can't handle that anymore.
Yeah. That's what I'm liking about, theaters like trying to utilize that as a new way of curating, like not just like, what movies are going to be in and what times they're going to show them, but like what the experience is going to be like. And, they're about to bring an Alamo Drafthouse to Hollywood, which is so awesome because it has its own kind of model. They're fucking up a little bit
I was
because
gonna
they're
say
like allowing
it's
mobile ordering, which is like,
controversial,
don't do it.
controversial new rules though.
But what I have noticed is that like when I've attended an Alamo, even when that was starting to happen or whatever, people weren't doing it. So
Yeah.
it's still a place where it's like you come here because you're not into that bullshit. And ideally that happens, but like Alamo's the one place that also is like, hey, Tuesdays before this time, if you have a young child who's going to be annoying and scream in the theater, this is your screening. So people with small children come and see Marty Supreme on Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. with your baby. And like
Yeah.
people do. And it's sort of like, yes, you're not going to make all your money back doing that, but you are making sure that people who like are going through that period of life where they can't get there all the time for whatever reason have some reason to go again. And then they have like a community that they connect to because they're like, oh, like we all love movies, but also like these kids are so fucking annoying.
Yeah.
You know
I
what I
mean,
mean? Like we have to figure out a way to get here.
I used to like try and go and beat the spoilers for the MCU stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
again, I just come to like the realization that like I'm not going to avoid it at this point. I think
It is
the
unavoidable.
big one for me was No Way Home. Like, someone spoiled it for me. Like, the big all the
Really?
Spider-Mans are going to be in it, like
Fuck.
with a screenshot included of like you know what I mean, before it came out, it got leaked, and I was
Yeah,
just
what
like,
happened to those piracy ads that scared you into thinking you were going to jail for like 5
Yeah.
years if you like gave any spoilers? And now
so now
people
I'm
are
just like,
I'll
you know
just
what?
screenshot
I'll
it.
see it when I see it. Like, we're here. But and then I think the last thing I want to talk about before we get into the movie is the YouTube creator to horror director pipeline that's
Yeah.
happening right now. Because
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting model too that I hope Hollywood is noticing, where it's like, okay, the IP now can be just an original idea, like Obsession, very simple
Mm-hmm.
idea. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like, when I say original, I mean this is just monkey's paw. This is just be
Totally.
careful what you wish for. This, like,
Right.
you
It's
know,
original takes, right?
yeah.
It's original takes.
So that's
Evolutionary takes.
so you can have a very broad. That's the IP. Even Backrooms was like this internet,
Right, like
lore
Reddit pipelines.
creepypasta that
Mm-hmm.
kind of spiraled into this movie. And so they're like, oh, people on the internet. It's like, yes, why do you think TikTok is so popular? People are watching content all the time. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's like, if you pipe into that with a talented director, like your Corey Barkers or your Kane Parsons, like, you can have good results. And so I hope that this, like, they don't, I'm sure they're going to take all the wrong lessons and just,
Yeah. Yeah, of course they are. Yeah, they're always gonna try to lowball, which is like
Yeah.
unfortunate. But that's exactly right. Is that someone like Curry Barker still goes to film school, so it
Mhm.
doesn't matter that he's coming from like a different generation or that he's moving through a different pipeline. He's still honoring the
Yeah.
art form he's gonna work in. He's just utilizing the tools available to him in his generation. And
Yeah.
I feel like that ideally that is like what it looks like to let film evolve and not lose it, but like like allow it to welcome, you know, new generations that have different types of social connections to come into the cinematic space.
Yeah, and so like being chronically online is like a joke and like something I am very much too like that. But like to have those like these guys are in their 1920s, you know what I mean? Like very
Yes.
young,
So much younger than
making
me.
making their brand of horror, I think is so cool. I'm
Yeah.
all for it. And even like Zach Krager too, coming from the sketch comedy,
Space. Yep.
space and bringing his stamp on horror. I just think it's like really cool to see. And I did a ton of research on Curry Barker and just Obsession in general.
Can't wait
So
to hear about it. I'm
can't wait to
excited.
let's
I
get
mostly
into it.
just have indie Neverette stuff because
Yeah,
they're just like pumping her at me like constantly,
me
and I'm like,
too.
that's fine with me. I don't mind.
Yeah.
She is the best. I
Well,
want
that's the
her
thing.
to
Like,
win an Oscar. I
I didn't have to
truly want her
go.
to win an
I
Oscar.
didn't have to go deep for the research is on his YouTube channel. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was right
Mm-hmm.
there for me. I just pulled it up
Available.
and just watched a lot of his short films. And so, yeah, well,
It's
I'll talk
awesome.
about it when we get into the movie.
Let's get in, yeah. So if you haven't seen it, it's a pretty straightforward story like we're talking about. It's just about a shy, nice guy who uses a magical wish to
Yeah.
force a friend to fall in love with him. Harmless enough, right?
Yeah.
Harmless enough.
Who hasn't been there?
But
You know,
right, so much depth.
Who among
I,
us?
I was gonna say, I feel like that was the one of the most fun parts of watching this is thinking about how, you know, how I would have reacted at different times in my life since I'm, you know, older now and I have a completely different relationship to things like this, but thinking of younger audiences. So we'll get
Yeah.
into it. We'll get into it.
Yeah.
It was written and directed by Curry Barker. The budget notoriously was somewhere around 750K, and it has grossed, you know, probably upwards now of like 442 million, which is like what?
Yes. Insane.
And it's got a 4.2 on Letterbox, which
I
is
think
very interesting.
I think they said like the most profitable indie movie now,
I
somewhere
think that's
something
right.
like that.
Yeah, I
And
feel like I'm seeing those headlines.
and
Mm-hmm.
also I saw Steven Spielberg loves it and
Of
Christopher
course.
Nolan loves it. You know,
Yep.
it's got all the legacy directors giving their stamp on it as well. So
Propping. Yeah, Nolan's
yeah,
out here like, I really want to make a horror movie now because of it.
dude.
So awesome.
Yeah,
And there's even
I'm all
videos of people showing Curry Barker, Steven Spielberg say he liked it and
yeah,
him being like,
I
you know,
know.
like getting so excited about it, which is amazing. Like that is what you want for like the new school to
I
come
mean,
in.
I'm a biased horror fan. I'm wearing my my other
Yes.
toxic couple, horror
The best. Yes. Oh my God.
shirt.
So good.
But I'm biased, but I want all the great directors to do a horror film. Like that was the for the longest time. I'm like Tarantino, the one scene in
Yes.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Texas Chainsaw Ranch scene. I was like, dude, just make a
Do
movie
one
of
for
this,
us,
please.
please.
And then
Yes.
Nolan too. So yeah, and oh my god, I just
I
every
think we'll
time,
get
please.
it. I think we'll get it because horror remains like the place where you could still go and learn something no matter what stage of your career you're in, whether that's early, middle, later phases, like
Mhm.
it's always available to you.
Any budget? Any
Exactly.
budget?
Exactly. Yes, yes. So, okay, let's get into it. You
Yeah.
know, like how was the viewing experience for you? I think first and foremost because we had a lot of hype going in. I'm
Yeah.
curious like what it was like to just like take this movie in for the first time.
I'm not gonna lie, I got nervous. Like this happens to me a lot. Like we talk about, like why we don't do new movies as much is because a lot of times I feel like I get led astray where it's like this is the best movie ever from like people that see 2 movies a year and like
Yes.
and they hype it up so much and I'm like, all right, I'll watch it already. Then I watch it, I'm just like, that was fine. Like that
Mhm.
was. I feel like this is the rare one that lived up to the hype. Like,
Agree. Agree.
and possibly like I don't know if exceeded it, but like I just came into it like skeptical at an all-time high,
Yep.
and I was just like, this is undeniable. Like, how could anyone watch this and say like the performances aren't gripping? Like the concept. I'm a sucker for this concept too. I don't know if you've seen Wishmaster, the Wishmaster
Oh
series.
yeah, yeah.
They're not great probably if I wouldn't rewatched. I haven't seen them in years, but like it was just for those who don't know, it was like an evil genie. And like
Yes.
he would, you would
Yeah,
wish for
warped
something
wishes.
and he would
Mhm.
twist your wish into like
Exactly.
something. So I just love this concept too. And I think the greatest thing Curry Barker did and why he's getting praised so much, because he also wrote and directed this, is that it's such a relatable concept. Like
Yes.
it's otherworldly, but everyone's had a crush, an unattainable crush at some point in their
Yep.
life.
Yep.
And like, wouldn't it just be easier to just make a wish and like they love you? You know, you don't have to do any work.
Yeah, you don't have to
And
be vulnerable, put
yeah.
yourself out there.
hmm
They just will love you. Mm-hmm.
and so like I feel like that like right off the bat um puts you like in on the side of Bear, which we can get into, of like, yeah, this guy is like extremely socially awkward, you can tell, you know, like,
Mm-hmm.
and just like he was never going to tell her, you know, like even when confronted,
Yeah, even when
even when Nikki
offered the
says, can you
opportunity.
just
Mm-hmm.
like, do you like me, you know, and he's like, you know, he can't do it. uh so I thought that was interesting because it's like, yeah, we talked about this with Shrek actually, that like it's so hard to put yourself out there. I've been on you know, both sides of it, of like putting yourself out there, getting completely rejected and being like, oh, that's the worst feeling in the world. And then I've also had the other thing of just like, I'm not going to put myself out there because it's like terrifying and
And
like
I've
it's
been
just
in
not,
both spaces
you
of
know what I
being
mean?
like, I
Yeah.
feel like there is something here I want to pursue, and then also being like pretty disappointed when it feels like I thought we had like a tight friendship, and now I feel like we're just
It's
pursuing me
ruined.
for a different reason.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It's
and
like
I
it's
feel like you don't see me anymore, right?
that, I think that is such a specific terror, like that everyone can relate to, and like that's why I it viscerally like had me in a hold. I feel like the whole movie is just being like, I know that feeling. And so he's powerless at the beginning, Nikki becomes powerless throughout the movie,
Yep.
and each of those situations I feel like it's very relatable, you know, for
Yeah.
each character. So
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. Needless to say, I don't, what about you?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like the another thing that made this movie so good is that like the writing was tight AF,
hmm
because you know I have some controversial takes on Zach Krieger's writing, you know,
I
his
was gonna say, yeah,
storytelling.
Weapons
You
was the
know I've
last
got
time that
those I've got those
the
reservations.
hype matched up for me, not for you. So I was
Exactly.
kind
So
of
I had
worried with
this
this one, but
I
okay.
had that similar like
Yeah.
please be good. I'm begging you to be good. And then I was just sort of like, wow, every line of this as it's delivered, I am sort of like, that's exactly how you have to say that. That's exactly how you
Yeah.
have to phrase that. That's exactly how you have to express, like, perform that. Like, this is so thought through that I was like really impressed. Because
And
I guess I was figuring, like, you know, it's a younger generation. So this is like, this to me is like, you know, when I'm watching Scream and I'm like looking up at a generation because I'm younger than them, now I'm looking like very far down at a generation who's much younger than me, and like the
yeah.
way they talk to each other and relate to each other. So I was like, I don't know what to
I
expect
think
here
the
in
age
terms of
though,
quality, but dang, it still worked. It felt like it was their voices, but it felt like that timeless message you're talking about.
was perfect,
Yep.
because if it was high school, like you said, it could have lost me with the like the slang or like trying to be too hip or whatever, but like it was not, and they kept a lot of things vague, which I appreciated. It
Yep.
doesn't fill
Yep.
in a lot of it. I filled it in myself. I don't need you to fill it
Hmm.
in. So
Exactly. Nothing wasted. No extra bullshit.
so I'm thinking these are people that are post high school, college years, but kind of still
Yeah, not
floating
really
around.
making huge decisive
Yeah.
choices because they're afraid, right? Everybody's a
Yeah.
little afraid to be vulnerable in all the situations of their life, which is really important.
Yes. But they've known each other for a while, even though as the movie goes on, this is kind of like the worst friend group of all time, I have to say,
It is
because
a great reminder of like, are these people even actually friends?
do they like
Like,
each other? Like
yikes.
we get some explanation for it, but like at a certain point I was like, Bear, tell your guy, like, or call the
Yeah.
police or call a doctor, like, you know what I
Or
mean?
Ian, like, do your friend a solid here and
Yeah.
tell him what's going on. Like, I guess
Yeah.
that's part of it too, is like, for me, what really stood out is the frustrating passivity of each of these clients. Like,
Yeah.
clients, oh my God, I'm sorry, I was working all day
You're in
today.
therapy. You're in therapy mode.
I've been working all day today. Of each of these
I
people
love
is
it.
that like none of them were direct. None of them acted based on their own authenticity. Their fear was driving all of them, and they all tried to coerce the things they wanted out of each other rather than
Which is the
being
message of the
direct and
movie,
asking.
you could argue, is that if Bear had just manned up, I hate to say it like that, and just
But
You know,
please say it like that.
we rarely do we as guys ever get just asked flat out like that. You know what I mean? I feel like that was
Yes.
just the easiest layup in the world. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
all you had to do was say, "Yeah, I do." You know, like it's just
Yeah.
right there.
You could
Uh,
have even returned the question of like, if I
do you
did, would
like
that
me?
be
Yeah.
bad? Yeah, do you like me? Like you, I feel like that's the thing, that's the difference between what I remember those kinds of conversations going like when I was in high school and early age, early 20s versus like the incredibly passive, like anti-vulnerability of these people where they're like, I can't, I have to like, I'm gonna lie. I'd rather lie than do something that could bring me happiness.
Well, I was having this conversation at my family birthday party this week of like why I think it's gotten worse actually now
Mm,
than when we were in high school because like I said,
yeah.
I have anxiety too and I still force myself to like
It's
have
the
those
hardest shit.
difficult conversations. But like now I feel like with social media there's an added element of like my shit's gonna be put on blast. I'm gonna be embarrassed
It's true.
and
There will be a thread
yeah,
describing everything I did, and everyone's going to comment on it.
just constant
Yes.
proof that I did this and like maybe even there's kind of I can see Bear being like I can ruin my friend group if I
Yeah.
do this and it doesn't work or something like that. Like even
Yep.
his best friend's trying to talk him out of it from the very beginning. Like don't do this. Like which
hmm
I thought was like this
But
movie's
which is
pretty funny
ultimately
too.
coercive because he
True.
could be like, dog, you shouldn't do it because like I
I have a
guess,
thing for her.
or
Like
like
I
spoiler alert, like she and I we hook up, so like
yeah.
she is into me, not you, and which like that's neither here nor there because I don't see that happening in
Yeah.
any world,
No,
but it's
at all.
happened in this one.
Yeah.
But
But
like if you're really his friend, you say that, you're like, sorry, man, I know you like her a lot, but like we do have this weird thing going on, and so like I don't know what to tell you. Like I can't. If you
yeah.
want to ask her and see what she says, like we'll see what happens.
I also think the tone though is really good. Like it really starts it off as like you're not sure, at least for me, I'm not sure what they were going for. And so
Yes.
it starts off with this comedy beat of like Bear bearing his soul
Yes.
to this lady and you think like oh this is like maybe this is the initial breakup and Nikki's the
Yeah, like a
emotional
rebound kind
fallout
of.
friend yeah
Mm-hmm.
and it's a random waitress at this at this
Yes.
place that they're
Yes.
at and it's like that was hilarious and then I love like the trivia night thing where again there's some physical humor where like they're having a conversation just the two of them
Mm-hmm.
where Ian is just going like don't do it don't do it like trying to
Yep.
and the girls are like what are you guys talking about like what is happening
Right. Picking up on like this weird whatever's going on. It's weird, But no one is speaking directly to any of it. No one is able to put themselves out there, none of them, not the women and not the men.
but again
And I agree.
from a screenwriting perspective I like that too though like I said I like that this I think that's why this has lived on social media too because I've certainly had conversations with people that don't normally engage with me about
Yep.
Obsession
Yep.
because they want to know my takes on certain things so I mean I'll throw some at you right now
Let's hear it.
do you think Nikki liked Bear more than a friend because that's up in the air I
I think
have my
she,
read on it what do you think
yeah, I think that she was curious about it because I think it was more like to me she seemed like someone who actually had kind of low self-worth. So
yeah
I didn't think that she maybe had feelings for Bear, but I think that she probably thought Bear would be nicer to her than Ian. So she
yeah
was at least open to seeing like, well, if there's potential, because I feel like when you're kind of in your early 20s and your teens, like you're like the way you feel about someone is strong for a hormonal reason, not for like an intrinsic, authentic, we are partners reason.
yeah
So you date a lot of people who you're like, I'll try to like them, right?
yeah
Because you're trying to figure out where your self-worth lies in all of this. And I feel like that's what I picked up from her was I was like, she is paying the pretty people tax. She's way too pretty to be hanging out with these like nerdy ass dudes. And that is like actually making her feel less confident ultimately.
Yeah, she
Because
has
like,
aspirations to be a writer, and they're
yes.
not being fulfilled by hanging out
And
with
they're also
these.
not really supporting her. Like a
No.
little bit, but not really, you know?
Um, with someone with some experience with the friend zone, I will say, which and friend zone's not a term I try and use anymore after taking a gender
Right.
studies class. Uh,
Thank you.
you know what I mean? But when I did believe in that term, you know what I mean? I would say I don't think she does. Curry Barker has said that he instructed Indy to play it both ways and use
Yep.
both of those takes
Yep.
at the beginning of the movie to keep it ambiguous. But
Yep.
what we got in the movie, this is my case for it. You got Ian saying, "Take your girl home, bro." And what's her reaction? Ew, no, what? Instantly grossed out by it. And I was like, okay, that's one right there.
Right, but the depth of that, because Ian saying that is actually such a rude piece of shit thing to say to the girl you're hooking up with.
True.
So I feel like that's actually why this movie is fucking genius, because
I know, because you can read it so many ways.
Yeah, how manipulative and how like callous and rude we are to each other when we're really young and too afraid to be like, hey, you can't talk to me like that, because we like want to be liked or we want to, fit in, whatever it is.
And then I rewatched the scene leading up to the wish because I feel like that was another thing where I was like, that could be the most you can lead either way.
Very ambiguous in the best way.
She says, when I like someone, no one will ever know. So I guess that's if you believe that she did have a crush, that's the biggest piece of evidence that she did like Bear, because you wouldn't see it in her performance at all.
No,
because she could keep it inside. I will say though, when he calls her Freaky Nikki, which is horrible friend advice from Ian again.
And
horrible
also,
friend.
So stupid to do this. Like, for him to have done it, I was like, you idiot.
But did it remind
idiot.
you of, like, remember those guys? I forget the guy's name that was, he came up with nagging, like to...
Yeah, the, date guy. Yes. Mm-hmm.
That just completely reminded me of, like, the idiots who listened to that guy and thought that was, like, genius advice. But
yes, my husband repeated the phrase. He was like, treat them like dirt, they'll stick to you like mud. And I was like, oh my God, I hate
Mystery?
that was
that
like
was
a
that
thing.
guy's name, right? Mystery?
I think so, yeah.
So he calls her Freaky Nikki, knowing she hates that term. She gets visibly upset. She's like, why would you call me that? And then out of that kind of, what the hell, she asks him, do you like me? And so you could read it as she's just angry that he called her that, but I kind of read it as like, I'm tired of dancing around this. Like, do you like me? Because
I feel like maybe I sense it, and I feel like
and I don't feel. To me, my reading was, and I don't feel that way, and I want this to stop, kind of.
Yeah,
but again,
I want it to be clear so that we can try to find a way back to friendship if that's possible.
So those are my evidence of why I think she didn't. But again, if you believe that she did, you're not wrong. It's very out in the open.
And ultimately, I feel like it's fluid, and that is like the most realistic part of like this age group and like the reality of these situations is that like it's not black and white, like she does or she doesn't for either of them, right? Because like he is convinced he's in love with her, but he's not really in love with her either. So
that's my next point.
That duality exists for both of them. They're at that age group where like you're in love with the idea of a person and or you're open to being in love with the idea of a person because you don't have a graspable maturity enough to know what it is to really be in love with someone.
Or like what you said with self-worth, you're projecting all of what you think makes a person good onto this person.
That's right.
And we find out he doesn't really know her at all. So
no, exactly.
Okay, next point, which I think multiple pieces of evidence in this movie we can go through, but I think the easiest thing that everyone can agree on, except for probably the incels of the world, Bear is the villain.
Yeah,
I think it's even Curry Barker.
These are the dudes that like I feel like I do remember these dudes in high school and being like, I am annoyed by this guy because he's just pining and he's just like being sad when this could just be over. This could just be over if you just tell her and she's like, I'll go out with you like once or twice and it doesn't work out, like it's done and on to some other girl you'll go, but you like lock yourself up and then it's just annoying because I feel like that like I did kind of understand where Ian was coming from at the top because like I was in theater, so I had lots of like very romanticizing type boys in my life that were like in love with these girls who they didn't really know but were like fantasizing about that, and it was annoying because they were always moody and mopey all the time. Yeah. And I do feel like, that's how I felt about Bear. I was like, you're holding your own self back right now, and it's so annoying to me.
I guess the best case I can give Bear, again, being in his shoes at multiple points in my life, is
Mm-hmm.
I have been on the other side of, I have put it all out there. This is how I feel, got rejected, and that was the end of the friendship, which is like
Okay.
the worst outcome that could happen. And like,
Yes.
and again, so then that puts it in you like, maybe I shouldn't do that now. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like,
Yeah, because you
because it
can hold
just,
on to the hope.
yeah, it's so
Mm-hmm.
it sucks. So I did give him the benefit of the doubt, but I mean, almost immediately. Let's go through this Bear just like
Yeah,
crime list.
before though,
Uh,
let me do say I'm being kind of harsh to this type of boy, because at the same time I also do think that like post Me Too and like Gen Z's attempts to have some more feministic ways of viewing women and their role as like pursuer and everything like that, is that like I do feel like it's pretty hard to be a young man today,
yeah,
because you don't want to come off like a creep. You don't want to come off like, you're just chasing her for sex. Like that, I feel
yeah,
like that's a really rough conundrum for a young
exactly.
man whose body is like, you just have to pursue
Or
sex right now. I'm
or
so
the
sorry.
old adage of nice guys finish last. You know, like
Exactly,
that's been
right? Like
around
they're
forever.
trying to both treat women with respect and also like live in a body that's like, sorry, but like chemically that is not a thing we have done yet.
Well,
So
I love
you're
that. I
having
mean,
that internal battle.
guys have taken, I guess, the L on that, but like, I'm honestly kind of deserved after just a
We're gonna find our
misogynistic
way there.
society. And but like,
Yes.
I love that it's the rewatchables. I listened to their episode on this, and I love that they broke down the history of, it used to be the crazy stalker girlfriend in the
Yes.
80s, 90s, and it's in the last 20 years has completely kind of flipped into,
Yes.
actually the most sinister thing about these types of relationships ships is the nice guy
Hmm.
that comes to you with seemingly the best intentions, who just wants to sleep with you,
Yeah,
or
who ultimately
you,
wants the same thing as the skeezy guy does. Hmm.
exactly. And so like, I thought of a Promising Young Woman, which I thought really, if it had such a bad release because of COVID, that I think if it had come out like this, would have had the same legs of Obsession.
Epic.
You know what I
Yes.
mean? Because I really, that
Yes.
was, it might
These
have
are
been my
great
top
companion
film
pieces,
of
honestly.
that year.
Hmm.
Number one or two of that year, I can't remember, but
God, it's so good.
it was just so good. And again,
Hmm.
coming out with like even the casting of some of those actors, of the nice guy
Bo,
actors.
dude. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Oh my God. It's true. There
um
was like some list published,
Nick
of course,
Lovin,
social media
Christopher
bringing it to
Mintz-Plasse,
me.
Adrian Brody.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like basically it was like, who are the nice guys that are, that were villains in these more recent movies, and Bo is on that list because like that's exactly right. Is it like that balance between like I'm trying to be respectful but I do have my own motives is a really hard thing to tease out, and
Yeah.
that's why the writing of Promising Young Woman is so fucking good, but
Yeah.
also that is why the writing in this movie is so good, because you shouldn't be able to tease it out. It will never be black and white, and that's what makes it so scary.
Well, and her becoming a vigilante in that, what got a lot of split feelings about it. And but I think a lot of that largely was that the woman taking the ownership of this type of dynamic and being like, well, if no one, if the law is not going to help me, if
Yep.
guys aren't going to do their part, if
Mm-hmm.
no one's going to believe me, then I guess I'm just going to have to put a stop to it. And
And
so
yeah.
in this, the one Wish Willow is the one that's putting a stop to it. You know what I
Yes. Yes.
mean? In a
Yes.
very messed up way. I wish Nikki didn't have to be the victim in
Of
this, you know,
this.
with this. But I think, again, like, let's just talk
That's the
about,
lesson too, right? That
yeah,
like women are being victimized in you know innumerable ways, if
yeah.
that's the word. That there's just
Hmm.
so many different ways that like women can be coerced or manipulated or pushed into positions that they don't deserve, that like it's hard for them to get out of.
Exactly.
And that's actually why I love that like it's this isn't a possession story where the One Wish Willow like possesses her to
Mm,
make her in love, but that
yeah.
there is that ability for her to sometimes peek out, and
Yeah.
like that flipping back and forth is like maybe my favorite part of this entire like story. Her ability to sort of like be fulfilling the wish and then being like, what's happening to me, where am I, like discovering, wait, it's not me, it's not me. So many great lines in those
Yeah.
flip switches.
Yeah. I think, yeah, Bear, again, it's, it's one of those great scripts where it's like where he becomes a villain is gonna differ for different people.
Yeah,
You
when
know what I
he
mean?
truly becomes monstrous.
Because I mean his cat dies in the opening, and instead of taking time to like grieve or take care of the situation, he's like, well, I get to see Nikki, so like, he's the obsessed one in this. He's the one acting abnormal in that
Yep.
situation.
Yep.
And there's a lot of theories online about the cat too, which like we don't have to talk about, but like how did the cat get the pill bottle open if it's a childproof cap, you know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah,
so again,
yeah.
Bear being maybe reckless or, leaving it
Yeah,
around,
just
not taking care of it. Uh,
passive, right? Like passive across the board, right? The house is also pretty dirty,
Gross.
like
Gross as hell.
exactly.
Yeah.
Just stuff that sort of shows you like this. It is trying to speak to that like chronic online person
hmm
whose like life is really dilapidated. Their home, they're not taking care of themselves. They're not taking care of their pets. Like they're just on a phone looking at some girl's Instagram and like
Yeah.
obsessed with her,
And they can live in that fantasy world because of that. I think so.
That's
Again,
right.
social media has made it so much worse. It was easy. It's a lot harder to pine and come up with this fantasy version when you didn't have that back in the day. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you had to like
Like,
write poetry and like do stuff that actually like furthered some
yeah,
art in you and,
you had to send a
promoted
bird.
yeah,
You had to send a
emotional
bird and wait
development.
like a month for a response. Like,
Yes. And now it's just like actually avoid all emotional development and just stick to, just fantasize. Just stay
yeah,
in a
I'll just
fantasy.
stick in this VR version of reality.
Yes.
Um, I think for me, it was when, like you said, Nikki, at first, I wasn't sure what was happening. Like, it wasn't clear to me that she was coming in and out from, like, I wasn't sure if it was going to be like she was just possessed and in love. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Because I
yeah.
haven't seen this type of obsession story or whatever wish story, and
Right.
so I just thought she was just like it was taking a minute to work. That was my
hmm
read of it,
Yeah.
of like,
Yeah.
oh, it's so that's why she's acting weird, of like, wait, what, my cat just died, and he's like, no, my
Yes.
cat just died.
Yes, when that happened and
Yeah,
she was like looked to herself like the way that's why I'm like this bitch needs to win a fucking Oscar
she
for
needs
this
to get
because it is
nominated for
wild how
sure.
good
Like,
she did.
if weapons, she won for Weapons, Amy
Exactly.
Madigan, I think.
Let's get a lead actress to win for a horror movie. It's time.
Yeah,
But like that's exactly right. Is I feel like when that scene happened, I was like, oh my god, this is the best movie I've ever seen in my
yeah.
life because she is actively portraying that like reality is shifting to match this wish, and this is like how you write that, and then an actor portrays it for you.
Well, I was gonna
Like
say her performance
geeked out
gives
hard.
you different reads of it, which I think speaks to a good performance. Because I thought it was glitching,
Mm.
it didn't hit me until later when Bear starts finding out like, oh, like Nikki is not there. Like this
Yeah.
is not Nikki,
Yeah.
and
This
so
isn't who she
because we
is.
just get little clues here and there like that. I don't know if I would have. No, I noticed the first time of like when she writes on the pictures in his lunchbox, like you, not me, on it when it's her in the photo. We talked about or like when they're laying in bed and all of a sudden she just screams at the top of her lungs like she just woke up like in a random place like you
Yeah,
would,
like
like
exactly when they're like kissing and then all of a sudden she's like, "What the fuck?"
wait,
and like
what?
kind of throws
Yeah.
herself off. Yeah, like those types of the switches I was like, "Oh my god, that's amazing." That is like showing you that like the authentic person is slowly disappearing.
And that's
It,
what reminded me of Promising Young Woman. There's that
mm,
scene where she scares the guys. She acts like she's drunk. She scares and then the guy, and I forget which actor it was, but he goes, "Don't play around like that. That's the scariest thing that could happen to a guy." And then she goes, "What do you think the scariest thing to happen to a girl is?" Like,
mm-hmm.
and it was just like
Mm-hmm.
that right there where I was like, damn, like it just put it in plain words. Like this is what this dynamic is. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and just the disconnect of like what a guy's biggest fear is, like Bear being socially awkward around his friend,
Yeah, or just
and
getting rejected,
yeah, and her losing all sense of agency. I mean, I think the worst example for me was the sex scene was really tough to watch.
Yeah, I feel like
I
that's when he like fully crosses over into like, "Oh, you're a piece of shit actually,
Yeah.
bro." Like
Because he's constantly ignoring these red flags, which a lot of people do in relationships, to be fair, but these are like
these are some
major
big
red flags.
ones.
Like,
My favorite being when the door is duct taped shut and she's
yes.
like, "Oh, if you're having trouble with the door, why don't you just stay home?" Like again, genius delivery.
Yeah.
Like the most perfect delivery.
Best line reads because
so good.
Because that was after it's still kind of like maybe she just needs to snap into it, which is still messed up. But like he's like, just can we not be weird anymore? Like putting plants in front of your face and standing in the corner and like, can we just not do that? And she's like, sure, of course. And then I love the reveal too. He just like he looks off camera like horror in his eyes, and you're like, "Shit, what did she do now?"
Something,
like,
right?
yeah, just a bolted, duct tape door. You could stay home.
You could just stay
home.
God, it's so good. I've been quoting that one over and over again because it's just
she has some of the
probably my favorite.
I also, the one that's been the most memed. We have to talk about the restaurant scene where Ian tells her that he does some fucking investigative work. I don't know where he's going through hospital records. Like, her dad is a clean bill of health, man. Like
that was the one that was one element where I was like, we didn't really get a lot of information about like what was up with that, and that's one piece of the writing where I was like, I see where we don't necessarily need it, but I kind of would have liked it.
I like Nikki like coercing her way to his house, like because a lot of guys do that.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so to see it flipped where she first tries to do the cat and then she's like, my dad has cancer. It is like looking down and like
yeah.
And like, so maybe you should just stay here. I'll just go to your house, and like gets in the car.
Right. Okay, yeah. Okay, I can see that. Yeah.
So I think that's what they were going for. But yeah, and then she stands up. Like first she does the get out, like no. But then again, her line, to her credit, her line reading just made that scene, where it becomes into camp territory of like, we were having a nice day, like
exactly.
It's almost like childlike in a way, like she throws a tantrum.
Right, because that's what it is, right? Since it's fabricated and ultimately superficial, it doesn't have grounding, and she is figuring out, how does she as an actor ground that? And that's another reason why I'm just sort of like, it is mystifying, this performance. It's so good. Like,
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, when in that scene when he's on the phone and she just sort of like walks out and then like in and out of frame watching, like, just again, the thoughtfulness of the direction, the writing, but then also like how that all comes together with her performance is just insane. And it's true. It's like, yes, we ignore a lot of red flags in relationships, but these ones feel like he should have done something sooner. And I do feel like that is the interesting part about this, where like I couldn't tell in his performance when he decides he's just going to accept it versus when he decides like, no, I can't accept it, and now I want to try to
he doesn't even know if the wish worked. That he kind of Googles it, and there's like conflicting like Reddit threads about it, and he's just like, you know what, not gonna look into it. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't.
Right.
But yeah, we got to talk about the framing. I think Curry Barker did a fantastic job. Like, the way he shot it into like a more boxy, framing.
Gen Z loves 4:3. It's their favorite.
He talks about that, like that he thought about like TikTok and things like that, but it also made everything feel so claustrophobic. So like, whenever the restaurant scene where she came into frame in the back, I was like, oh shit, like like there's
good.
Or when she's hiding in the corner of the room and things like that. And so I watched his short films, and like, if you really want, I wouldn't say they're required viewing.
Okay.
But it was cool to see that he was playing around with this stuff in all of those short films. Like, I would say like the lighting, lighting of like people in the corner, like the awkward like movement stuff he did in one of them.
Love it.
I think my favorite one was called Heavy Eyes. That one's like only 5 minutes. I would recommend that one because it's so short.
Cool.
And that was kind of like an imposter of like, this kid thinks his mom is home, and then she texts him from work like, hey, I will be late from work. So like, again, playing with like, that's not really your girlfriend, that's not really your mom, like that type of thing.
Yes.
And then like cooking the cat, like there was just so many signs to like leave or do something, and Bear just like does not take the bait, you know? Like he's
Yeah.
just, I'm gonna make it work. I guess in the sex scene, like it's again, it's ambiguous because they have like this kind of montage of the relationship going good, but it's from
Hmm.
Bear's perspective.
That's right.
So and so in the sex scene, he's in missionary, he's looking down at the pillow. We don't know if he sees her face or if he's looking away from her face. You
Right.
know what I mean? And
Right.
also she's making like positive sounds to where
Like
he's probably
looking so like sad and off, you
yes.
know?
And I think we got to mention like Indy Navarrete. Why I think why her performance is being so praised and why I appreciated it is like it wasn't just her line readings, her facial reaction, her it's so
Body
expressive.
language,
There were
everything.
so many times in the movie where I'm like, she looks like a completely different person. Like I
Yes.
could not. I mean, she does the frowny face at the party, and
Epic.
it's like that was instant meme material too.
Yep.
Just really
Love
funny
that.
and awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, when she waits for him at the door for him to get back at work, and
Yep. It
she kind
stays
of
there all
she
day.
has this strange smile to where you can see the vein in her forehead, and it's like it almost looks like it hurts, like
Yeah.
for her to
To
be
stay
doing
here.
this,
Mm-hmm.
and like urinates and shits on the floor. Like there's a lot of gross bodily stuff in this movie if you're squeamish about that.
It's
There's
true.
throw up. There's
Yep.
yeah.
And then, like when it does get to a point where it's sort of like when upset, when the reciprocation is not there and it turns into a place where she has to force her will in order to be in
Yeah.
love with him and then starts, like hurting other people. I feel like that's an interesting turn too, because like that's exactly right, is that like if you are in a relationship with someone and it's more about like mental illness obsession, like somebody has a
Yeah.
personality disorder, there's like domestic violence happening, like that person is isolating you, that person
Yeah.
is taking you away from your friends. So I also liked how like there is some authenticity to this idea of like, again, if we were framing this in the 80s, then she would be the villain. She's making it so he
Yeah.
can't connect to his friends anymore. She's making it, she's doing all these things.
Well, in
But
those
because
movies,
you
it's
recognize that he instigated all of it, it is still his doing. She's not doing any of those things by choice, if that makes sense.
no, for sure. I was just gonna say in those movies it's funny too because you look at like Fatal Attraction and like Michael Douglas cheated. Like he stepped out
Yeah.
on his marriage
Yeah.
and somehow
It still
the
comes
side
out on
chick,
top.
yeah,
Classic.
the side chick is the
Mickey Two Times.
psycho stalker killer. You know?
Classic. Yeah, they were like, we're gonna scare men out of cheating by making
Yeah.
them afraid of the women they cheat with, instead
Yeah.
of being like, what if you were just a
What if
good
cheating
guy?
was wrong? Like what if you just
Yeah,
didn't
what
cheat?
if you were just a good
Yeah.
guy and you didn't cheat? That could work too. But
I
like,
think
I do feel like one interesting piece to me was that even it had like a Midsummer Night's Dream vibe in the instances where there was that love triangle established between him and Nikki and Sarah,
Yeah.
because Sarah also like they were trying to be like, Sarah's the one who likes you, and they were triangulating this idea of like, she told me, so like what do you think about that, right? Like doing that thing that you do in high school or in your 20s when people are like trying to help
also
matchmake or whatever.
you could say Sarah's kind of a bad friend because how
Yes.
long did it take for her to say that the friend zone thing that she confided and said I put him in the friend zone or whatever?
Well, and also to be
You
like,
know?
if you don't come meet me, like I'm gonna blow this up and everything, like
Yeah,
using
that was
coercive
weird.
threats to get
That was
him into
weird.
her car,
Yeah.
and then to her own demise, right? Like instead of trying
Yeah.
to like do something more assertive. So I do feel like I liked how like none of these characters are like exempt from using the wrong ways of relating to each other. None of them are exempt. So they all kind of like, even though their punishments were maybe a little intense and exaggerated, they all like needed to learn the hard lesson that you can't just like force people to give you what you want. Like you have to be direct, you have to be vulnerable, you have to
And
be
face the
authentic.
consequences either way.
And you have to accept,
Yeah.
that there are limitations. I was absolutely friend zoned as a young person because like
Yeah.
I was a sporty person. So I hung out with a lot of hot guys that had very hot girlfriends that were way hotter than me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wish, right? But we were bros, so it didn't happen.
You
But
kind of got to
none
be
of-
realistic, Bear. Like you were
You're
never going
right,
to end
like,
up
I
with a
had
Nikki
to-
in your life, you know?
Exactly.
Like
It made it it a lot easier for me to go off to college and like find my real people by
Yeah.
accepting that like it's cool that this person doesn't like me back. Like I only have so many choices here. It doesn't have to be my self-worth. And that's the difference, is that like this movie is really talking about how like if the person you're in love with is more about your self-worth than it is about who they are as a person, you're not really in love with them.
Yeah. I think so the two things that I think, if you were still on the fence about Bear, the two things that like indefensible, I think that the big one was when she's like, just kill me. And it's very clear that
Please.
she's in the sunken place at this
Yes.
point.
Yes.
And he goes, "What's so terrible about being with me?" And it's like, okay, you're
Yeah,
just you're
fuck off,
you're
man.
either dense or you're
How are you
purposely
not
not
getting
getting
this?
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how are you not getting this?
That part, and then the part where he calls the customer service, which again was hilarious, and that's
Epic.
Curry Barker on the phone,
So good.
doing the
A little
voice.
M. Night, homage there.
I think there was some Gen Z jabs or just commentary at like the customer service in this movie,
That's so
just
good.
all being terrible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Because
appreciate
like
that.
you had the people at the shop that sold the One Wish Willow, and then you had the guy in the Curry Barker on the phone being like,
Yep.
"Yeah, it doesn't really work like that," like.
Yes.
But then but the creepy part again, it plays on that edge of like, this is funny, this is funny. Oh, here's Nikki right here, scream, like
Yeah, do you want to
loud
talk
ass
to her?
scream.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And in his short films, that's something that I noticed of like, oh, this is like a technique he's using now,
That's
that he
cool.
kind of perfected an obsession of like, there'll be a very serious or conversation or something, and then a break in the reality real quick.
Yes. Yes.
There was one in there's a one called Warnings, where Curry Barker's actually in,
Okay.
where he's having this conversation with his friend who's played by Ian. That's like his YouTube
That's
partner
right. Yeah,
too.
they're chums. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And in the middle of the conversation, he just goes, "Pose." And they look to the side, and another Curry Barker takes a picture of them, like a doppelganger takes a picture of them posing, and then they go back to the conversation. And it's just like, what the
Cool.
fuck? Like, he
Cool.
just.
It's interesting. Like there is like soft surrealism in
Yes.
here that I really liked, which I feel like like this felt like the music in particular. I was like, we're getting like these are filmmakers who are influenced by David Lynch and Yorgos. You know what I mean? Like they're
Some
coming up
a
with
lot of people drawing comparisons to K-horror too, with like The Ring, the way that she
yes,
moves, and
mm-hmm.
those again really like something I've never seen before. Like sometimes it's reversed, sometimes it looks like she's gonna lunge at him,
The
like
best.
just super unsettling. And
Mm-hmm.
then I think again, leading into the end here, when he gets Sarah killed, because like, why would this girl is gonna do anything? Why would you meet someone in the middle of the night?
Yeah,
And again,
let
learning the
alone a
lesson of like,
gal.
you could have had this girl potentially,
That's right.
instead of pining over Nikki. Like, that's the big lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Nikki kills her, and I think Bear screaming in the car of like, fuck, like this is completely. And he tells Ian wishes for the $1 billion. I thought that part was hilarious.
Yes,
Of like,
such
again,
a
horrible
friendship.
friend,
Yeah, friendship.
horrible
Right.
friend.
Mm-hmm.
And then again at the end was ambiguous too. I wanted to get your read on that of like,
Love it.
he's like, again, maybe I have to kill myself. Listen to the guy on the phone. He's like, you have a responsibility. Like, it looks like you have a moral obligation
Mm-hmm.
to kill yourself. That's the only way out. And
Yeah.
he takes the pills that has killed his cat at the
Yep.
beginning of the movie,
Yep.
and he still almost tries to get out of it by like throwing up.
Yeah.
Almost
Yeah.
trying to throw up. He still can't. He still tries to chicken out, and
Yeah. Just because I didn't mean it,
yeah. And then you hear the One Wish Willow, that Nikki, so presuming that she wished that Bear was obsessed with
He
her,
loved her.
which leads
Mm-hmm.
to his death. Again, it's just smart writing. It's just like
Yeah. Well,
really
it
smart
is.
and perfect
I,
writing, like.
yeah. Again, and then there are like those archetypes again. Like I feel like that's a very Romeo and Juliet ending. Obviously, it's an incredibly
Yeah.
warped one,
Which did you
right?
know about the original ending, which was even more
Yes.
Romeo and Juliet,
Social media
yeah,
gave me that information. Thank you.
where
But that's
Nikki kills
exactly right.
herself, and they do go out together, and he's like, let's just do this other way, and it's so much more creepy and unsettling and unforgiving, you know, like you don't know what's going to happen now. Like you presume that her life is ruined. Like,
her life is ruined, but it belongs to her again. And I feel like
yeah,
that's actually why, like, it's obviously it's not a like a
it's
quote
better.
happy
It is a
ending,
better ending.
but it's a
Yeah.
better one because I feel like in the end, like, you know, even like in the end of Promising Young Woman, it's sort of like she still went out authentically doing what she was doing, not being someone's
Yeah.
victim ultimately, but like being reminded of like the reason why this power dynamic exists. And I feel like in the end of this movie, like, yes, she's still going to be held accountable for these things that she did against her will, but she's free now. And that
Yeah.
is more important ultimately. Like, she is back on her own terms regardless. Because even if she goes to jail for the rest of her life, it's like nobody's ever going to do something like this to her again.
Yeah. I love the detail at the end too of like her trying to look like Sarah, like with the like
Yes, yeah,
tattoos
being
and
like,
like
hey.
she's like she's like smoking like 100 cigarettes in the house. Like,
It's so good.
yeah.
Really well thought
It's
out. Like, this
just
was a movie I feel like I would give 5 stars to. You know, if we
yeah.
were still doing our rating system, I'd give it
Yeah.
5 willow, one wish willows because it's so good. I have recommended it to people. I am talking about it with everybody, and I am watching all that social media stuff because
Me
I'm like,
too.
yeah, give me more. I want more of this. So
Yeah.
I'm interested to see if he does the anthology follow up because I know people are like chasing a sequel. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm glad that he has like been pretty firm on the idea that like he's not continuing this story if he continues.
Well, what
Because I
even
think
is there to
that
continue? Like
exactly.
that would
I
be
think
my
that
question to
would really
people.
ruin
What
it.
is left? Everyone's dead or like
Well, you know,
it's
the
so
studios, they
stupid.
would beat the dead horse until it was
Prequel.
like mincemeat.
Let's do a
But
prequel to when they were in
thankfully,
high school, you know?
exactly. You know, thankfully, like I don't think that's what's going to happen here. So yeah, I'm really glad we did this. I'm so glad that it came to streaming like quickly after theaters so that we
Yeah.
could see it and you know participate in all of this.
Yeah, I give my final thoughts. I would give it like high marks as well, you know, close to 5 stars probably. I guess my only real critique is like why put Andy Richter in here if you're not gonna have him do anything? You know, that
That's true.
that
A
kind
little
of made
more
me
Richter.
bummed, you know, like what is he doing in
You
here? Like
got to find a way to get that 750K and
uh
he helped. I'm sure he
yeah.
helped.
Also, the music store I thought was really dumb because, like, if you would have just changed that into like a vinyl store,
Yeah.
instantly better, like
Yeah.
instantly more buyable, like
Yeah.
realistic of like what's happening now, you know, like
It was very LA to me. Like to me, I was like,
yeah,
this is exactly like how people get like stuck in the time warp of Los Angeles, where like they don't
yeah,
grow up because they're like, yeah, I've actually just been working at this music store for 20 years, and you're like, you have? Oh, you know, like I feel like that
yeah.
absolutely happens to people, especially out there.
But I'm
Um,
I'm really excited for Indy Navarrete, what she's gonna do next. I mean, like this was
Same.
just like a remarkable, like Exorcist level performance of like
Yep.
how did that performance come out of this like really beautiful woman? Like I don't
Who
understand.
seems so chill? Yeah,
Yeah, she seems like the
exactly.
coolest girl. She's like streams games. I've seen some clips of that, like where
Yes,
she's playing The
yes.
Last of Us or like
She
Mario
is the
Kart.
coolest Gen Z
Um,
actor of our time, and I'm so excited for her
but
career.
this is why I love horror. I guess this is why I want to end it. Is just like it can break actresses more than other genres, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I was thinking of Pearl or The Invisible Man with Elizabeth
Yes.
Moss, which were
Yes.
both really great performances, giving me similar vibes. Get Out.
Yep.
Like I just think it's in the pantheon of like great horror movies, and I hope she gets
A million
nominated. And
percent.
Curry Barker, I hope he strays away from the IP. I know he's doing Texas Chainsaw
He's got
Massacre.
to make some big money now,
You
right? You do
know,
the small ones. You do a big one
yeah.
here and there, so you can get a little extra
But like Obsession
Skrilla.
2, I'm okay with it. Like just
Yeah.
leave it where it is, and
Yes.
you know, yeah, I think they all have like really good futures ahead of them. And if you haven't seen this, check it out. Highly,
Yes.
highly, highly recommend. You know.
Yep. It's on Peacock. Get there. Go there now.
Yeah, no excuses anymore. All right, I think that about wraps it up for us. Let's remind the people where they can find us.
All right, get your fix and follow the show. We Stay Buff on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, YouTube, and TikTok. And you can follow me on all the socials at It's Me, Shani B.
And so you never miss a rep, subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Please leave a positive review, 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. Follow me on all the socials at misfit_minded and my website, misfitminded.com.
Yes. Next, we'll be back next time covering Point Break as we close out this summer. It's going to be so good.
Oh, so
Very
chill,
excited for
dude.
that. Very excited for
Speaking
that.
of LA vibes, let's go.
Exactly. Just like, let me do it, man. Yeah, it's going to be a great talk. But you know, we'll catch you next time for another edition of Movie Buffs. Until then.
Oh, no. No.
What?
No, 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 don't do that! I thought we were having a nice day!
We are. Sit
Why
down.
does it matter? I thought we were having a nice
We are.
day!
We are. It's okay. We are.